Welcome to this panel on cinematography at DIF 2020. Welcome to Pooja Gupte and Shreya Dev Dubey, both of whom have films playing at this year's edition of DIF, which is for the first time in its history online. I just want to say that it's really a pleasure to have both of them with us because I've watched their films, not only because of that, but also because of that. And they're both lovely. They're both cinematographers of these two gorgeous shorts. One is called Wig, which is Pooja Gupte's work, directed by Atanu Mukherjee. And the other is called Bittu, which is directed by Karishma Dev Dubey. Shreya is the cinematographer for that. Welcome, people.
Thank you. Thank you, Trisha.
Thank you for having us.
So I was just going to leap quickly into that, into sort of the question of, you know, this is a panel of cinematographers, but I mean, I'm not one, but also we're hoping that it will be heard by a lot of people who don't know very much about cinematography, but are interested. So would it be fair to ask, you know, the open-ended question to both of you? How do you think of cinematography? What is it that you think of as the cinematographer's job?
I mean, if I have to start, I'll say the cinematographer is basically director's eye, and you know, whatever the director has visualized or has written on the script, we are the ones who are actually putting it across as, you know, a visual form in all those you know, how do I say, structure. But a cinematographer is also somebody who designs the visuals of the film to keep them in one sort of
I think the reason why Pooja is also struggling to kind of explain it in one sentence is because we have so many different jobs in so many ways, you know,
But there's no requirement for one sentence. Please say lots of sentences.
So I guess if I would add to Pooja, then I think we are, like she said, like the eye, but at the same time, we are kind of, I think merely storytellers, but visual storytellers. And we kind of build off the script and give it life, but visually, and light it and kind of, Hannah, Pooja?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with Shreya that we give the life to the words that are there on the paper.
Yeah, so in fact, you've led me exactly to a question that I had for later, which is, you know, I mean, the role of storytelling in cinema. I mean, it's one of those things that cinema is, as someone who writes about cinema but isn't trained in film, I'm often conflicted about how I see films very often as a book on screen, because I am also a book critic. And it's always something that worries me, my own visual illiteracy or whatever. It's not, you know, like the image seems like something that I'm responding to without having necessarily the words to think about it. And so, you know, you're actually talking about translating what is often a script in words to images. And how does the cinematographer think about these things? How does that process actually pan out? I think all my metaphors are going to be cinematographical today. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Shreya, do you want to start?
So your question was that how do
you take script words, like a words that a dialogue?
The Bible is the script itself. You know, I think it's merely that. I mean, we have to keep constantly going back to the words and the way the director has kind of, you know, written it, and like the graph of the characters in the story, etc. So that's always something we have to constantly go back to and to build off. That's our starting point, and always something that we constantly referring back to.
Right.
And then I guess it's of course, you know, what goes into it is building a rapport and understanding the point of view of the director as to how and why and what kind of story and how they want to express the story, because us cinematographers usually kind of are quite like chameleons. You know, we have to kind of find a way to fit to different ways of storytelling or visual storytelling or visually telling a story, etc., etc., you know. So I think it's merely that. And then then it just kind of, we take it one step at a time. Then you kind of work with the production designers, which I think is very key for a lot of us in terms of understanding what is the color palette. Then the costume also comes in simultaneously to discuss like what are the tones, whether, because it all kind of fits in together. You know, we don't, what's the beauty of filmmaking is that we can't kind of do it entirely on our own, at least some sort of films. So I guess it's nice to kind of, feed off one another and work together to be able to make that beautiful image. And of course, that image is written by the director. So, the production designer and the sound and the costume and my camera and lighting, everything works together,
The camera team is the biggest crew. I mean, and we have to coordinate not only with our own team, but also with the production designer, the makeup artist, the costume designer, and hence all of this becomes very important part of cinematography. I usually end up saying that cinematography is 80% production design, because without a good production design, how much ever good I light, how much ever good I do framing, my frame is not going to get the essence of script or the things that I'm trying to say, mood, basically, till we are on one wavelength. So
right. Does that make it easier to work with a smaller crew? Or I mean, because both of you have worked on various kinds of films with different kinds of scales of production, so does it seem like the kind of sync that is needed is easier to achieve on a smaller scale project?
I think there has to be a lot of dialogue, whether it's small or big, in terms of between the entities. That really helps to bring it, in like a kind of on the same page. But like there are smaller scripts where you can build, like when we shot Cat Sticks, Devika Dave and I kind of went and did a lot of work together, But then when I saw Suitable Boy with a larger production value, the kind of way you can, express and show a period piece is also another different thing. So it really depends on, I think, your relationship that you build with between the different departments. I think that's also a part of our responsibility to be able to arrive at that,
So in both your cases, is it true that both of you are related? So one of you is working with your sister, is that right? And the other person with your partner in the particular films that we're watching here. So is that the first time that you worked with them?
We always had a working relationship, and I have always shot his films, like right from his first short film to his feature to Wig, and most of it I've produced, except Rook, because Rook was Drishyam Films. But this Wig, though Hamara movie is the main producer, I was sort of an executive producer on it. So I was also sort of getting things done and shooting, which is the most difficult part.
Wow, that sounds really crazily hard work.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I remember there was this one time we were shooting on road, and we did not have permission because we just had one shot to take, and then there were night shots. You've seen the street that we've shot, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that street we did have permission for 2 days, but we wanted one shot where they leave her from the bus. So we wanted some different locality, and that locality I had not taken permission for. I thought it's just one shot, we'll finish that quickly. And in that 10 minutes, the police came. So I said, guys, just run. And I was there. I had to stand there because I was the person responsible. And I was like, guy, I mean, of course, I'm a Marathi, so in Mumbai, it gets easier. So I was like, when there's crime happening, you're not there. And then when I'm just taking one simple shot, you're here in 5 minutes. So
I wonder how they took that, huh? Pooja, only if like the Dubey in me would have said that out loud to the cops in Maharashtra, I would have been in trouble.
They got a bit annoyed with me also, but then everything else had gone, and they couldn't retain me because they did not have female cop with them. So
right.
It was easier to get away at night.
That's great.
Yeah.
Karishma and I have had it was our first film together. I was her AD, and producer for Devi, her first film,
Right.
second film in film school. So this is the first time we kind of worked together as a DP director. But it was great because we had already, like, say, 20 years of, say, understanding and knowing each other's taste. And, we kind of both went to the same boarding school, and there was a lot of homework already done before. So that's always helpful, especially in a project like this. So we had only 6 days, and it was not a lot of money. And there's like, we were kind of working with children. So you can always imagine that's an extremely complicated way of, like, in terms of, dealing with younger actors. She had to almost like relearn or unlearn a lot that she learned in film school. So it helps to have like a DP, someone who kind of has a lot of experience with one another. There's not much like talk, because the conversations have already happened before.
There's some greater intuitive understanding. Yeah, I can totally imagine that. That would probably be the case for both. Sorry, say, Pooja.
So yeah, I was just going to say that, usually me and Asanu have this thing where, we sit and we discuss every scene, and we discuss every scene's color palette. But with Big, both of us were like, let's go candid. Let's not discuss the script. Let's just read the script. Let's just try this out, because short film is the only ways you can try different ways of executing things. Rukh, we had really, everything, right from costume to everything. We had like references, and, everything was there on paper. This, both of us were like, no, we'll not discuss. And I was just going to do handheld camera, and we were like, let the actors be. And I've not used any lights, all practical.
Oh, wow.
It looks beautiful.
My production designer backed off one day before the shoot. So then my friend from FTII, who had worked with me on a feature, I called him and I told him, listen, I'm in a big soup and I need a production designer. And he said, just send me the script. I'll think whatever there is there in my go down, and we'll manage. And somehow in one day we managed, and so it was all very candid. So
that sounds brilliant fun, actually.
I know, and it shows like what a great relationship, touchwood, you have with your partner. This isn't an easy thing to do, which is amazing. I've seen a lot of these situations go wrong, which is why, I mean, kudos to you. To do.
No, and I mean, I prefer a lot of prep, but this time we were like, let's just go. Let's just awesome. Go and shoot.
So would it be, is it sort of like the short film allows actually for a little more experimentation? Is that kind of what happened here? It lets you off the hook a little bit in terms of the planning, or was it just happened in this particular case, the decision?
So no, actually I feel short films are sort of, it gives you creative liberty. With feature films, what happens is, unless it's completely indie and self-funded, feature films, there's a producer, there's certain money involved, and it depends on the producer's vision. Are they looking at making the film completely the way the director has visualized it, or they are looking to have a certain return? And film business is a business, you can't deny that at one point. So a lot needs to be done in feature film. I mean, same in short film, but I feel the experimentation.
The money is more in features in that sense. So there's more responsibility there are more people to answer to, you know, it's just that. So I think, I'm not sure, but I think that's a very important factor too, to be able to kind of, take risks or not. You can take risks when you arrive on set, even on a bigger production, then you're going to rely on the magic, but otherwise, like, I think, depends, I guess, project to project, no?
Yeah, it does depend on project to project. I mean, even in short films, when you have films funded by a certain producer and are for certain reason, for example, there are a lot of these films are done for different OTTs, then they have to be done in a certain manner. And I don't know how much of experimentation is sort of possible.
Are there formats or templates or something like that for cinematography for OTT platforms that you've encountered? I mean, is there something, an example that you could give, that something that you wouldn't be able to do for an OTT platform that you can do when you're...
Actually, it all depends on, how the director has negotiated his visual vision with the producer, right? What do you say?
Yeah,
Shreya?
yeah. I mean, I haven't done much OTT in that sense, like, one is getting those opportunities now, but so I wouldn't really know, but I do know, I mean, I kind of hear about it from my greater colorist friends, that how I think a lot of OTT platforms have like a little bit, they're inhibited for, I mean, it depends on whether the DPA has the power or not to persuade them, of course, but they don't necessarily like anamorphic kind of aspect ratios because it doesn't really cover the whole screen. They want to utilize the whole cell phone or the laptop to be able to kind of, because they're usually smaller screens, so they want the image to spread over the whole screen. So I think that's something which is a shame. I hope it changes a little bit. The artistic quality comes in depending on project to project. So that's something I've heard, but otherwise there's just some stipulations technically to be able to make sure that they have, so it works well for screens at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm going to step us back into the question, because I started you off in teacherly mode about what cinematography is, but maybe both of you would tell us how you got into cinematography in the first place. Where did that kida come from? I mean, and when?
I was taking I was a photographer initially. Like, I was shooting a lot of stills. And I think for me, I guess it just kind of went hand in hand. The more I looked at the kind of work, my images worked better as triptychs and diptychs. I would look at things in motion a lot. So I had an older aunt who was a curator who kind of looked at my work, and she initially, like when I was about 18, 19, had told me that, maybe you should think about moving image. It's something that you look at when she was looking at my work. So that just kind of got me thinking. And of course, like, we've grown up with a lot of Indian cinema, and like, it's like very much a part of who us Indian, at least I can speak for myself, like, entertainment came from that. So, it was all, and I always I loved storytelling. So I suppose it just kind of went hand in hand and, happened. I worked as an AD for a year and I didn't really enjoy that. And then went and trained in Paris and then came back, etc. So
you trained as a cinematographer. So by then you already knew that this was the specific part of filmmaking that you wanted.
Not really. I think, what was lovely is that in this digital world, it's very easy to kind of juggle between multiple different departments, especially when you are independent and struggling, in the sense that you're not necessarily assisting a senior DP and you're not kind of using the normal route up to become a HOD or cinematographer. So I guess, like, at that time I was juggling between different things. I like directed a bit and I shot a bit and I was like producing a bit and also doing photography. And then I think I kind of, had to take a step back and think about what am I the best at, and then put all my energies on it. So focus on that one thing. And of course, like, it was very clear to me. So then it just helps, I think, not to be greedy and not to be so kind of thinking about what you want to do and what you would like to be, but also kind of take a step back and not think about your ego so much and see what are you great at and then build on it beautifully, because can't keep lying to yourself. So that always helps.
I like the idea of not wanting to be greedy. I think that's a useful takeaway for anything from anywhere. But yeah, Pooja, did you want to tell us how you got into it?
So for me, I was always a very mischievous child, I'll say. So it started actually in school when I decided I don't want to write my aunt's question papers and just leave them blank. And all my 7 subjects I had left them blank, and my teachers called my parents and they were like, is she okay? She's like, in 4th standard and she's not writing, and what is wrong? Is she okay? And my parents were like, she's okay. She's playing at home. She's doing everything normal at home and we don't know what's wrong. So they asked me and I said, it's so boring to write because, anything that you learn, you forget. It's not something that stays with you. I don't remember what I learned in 2nd standard, except ABCD. So I said, I don't care. And that's when I actually realized I'm more of a visual person. I really like drawing, and I like to peek through visuals. So I worked towards joining a fine art school. And when I joined fine art school, I realized photography was one of the subjects. I took up photography. And while doing photography, because I'm from Pune, and FTII and archives was so accessible that I started watching films at the age of 16 and got hooked to world cinema very early on. And um, all the festivals at archives, just all the films that played. I remember my first film was Eight and a Half, and I was like,
Wow.
what was that? And yeah, somehow it attracted me, and I wanted to do cinematography. Even when I was doing commercial art, I used to always think in motion. So I worked towards going to a film school. And yeah, after film school, I came out. I assisted for 1.5, 2 years because I wanted to work on a bigger scale. I assisted a cinematographer, Kiran Devan. He shoots a lot of ads, and he's done a lot of big budget films. And
Right.
so I worked with him for 1.5, 2 years, and then Crossing Bridges happened.
That's your
Which was,
first feature.
yeah, that was my first feature. As Shreya said, as digital came in, it became easier for us to, sort of negotiate and do our own stuff. Because I shot my first feature on a 5D. Again,
Can you
that's when
imagine?
I actually, yeah, and that's when I realized that because the director is also my batchmate from SRFTI Sange. We did our diploma together, diploma film together, film school diploma film together. And that's when I realized that while doing Crossing Bridges, I realized I was doing a lot more than the cinematographer, like managing things, making sheets, who is coming when. Because again, as I said, we are the largest team. So I had to make sure that, my life, because we started with thinking we'll make a short film. We had only that kind of a money, but then we said, why not make a feature? And then we got a 5D of our own, and we started, building on it. And finally, in a year's time, we had everything ready, and we shot the feature. And then there was this blankness, what to do, because the film school doesn't teach you, how to go about selling your film, or so then of course NFDC Film Bazaar happened, and Work in Progress Lab happened, where we met a lot of people. And um, we could show the film to different festival curators. And Crossing Bridges was also part of this, I think in 2014.
All right.
Yeah.
I wasn't there in 2014, so I missed it.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. So and that's when I realized I have sort of, I like producing the films that I really, really get involved in. So this is one on and off thing that I keep doing with cinematography.
have either of you worked on projects? Can you be a purely technical sort of presence on a film as a cinematographer, or do you feel that you have to be invested in the story that's being told? I mean, this is obviously a personal subjective decision. I imagine that lots of people and lots of projects happen which are done for, as a job, but because it also seems like it's a fairly technical field in which you need to know lots of things about camera angles and light and so on, and you could just implement what is already decided by a director and come on set and implement those things. Is that something that you have ever done, or does that not appeal?
I mean, for Suitable Boy, I had the luxury of doing that, in the sense that the DOP was Declan Quinn, who's like a master himself, and I was a camera B operator. So it was really great to kind of watch extremely wise cinematographer like him kind of light and work on set, etc., with two camera operators, on his unit. So that in that way, you kind of become an operator and not necessarily someone who is a director of photography. That helps. Or like I haven't really done much ads, no one really hires me. So I don't know whether that could be something that, it's easier to do as a money job. And, it's about selling a product. It's about telling people how to feel instead of uh, kind of keeping it open-ended when you're doing more fiction work or storytelling work. You see what I'm saying? So the kind of way of telling stories is also different. So I guess that, you become more technical. A lot of my DP friends try a lot of their lighting and interesting things because they have better toys to work with. So I guess it becomes,
the budgets are larger in advertising, so I hear.
I mean, because it's per day for a lot of money, etc., etc.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I kind of worked like with photographers as a gaffer. Like sometimes I love to do that. Bikram Bose did a cover for AD magazine with Nawaz and Lakshmi, and they took up like the Asiatic Library steps and the Flora fountain. So I was like, you're going to stop that space for midnight in the middle of the night. I definitely want to be a part of it. So you kind of end up becoming more like technical and join different, not necessarily shooting. So, eventually we were hearing, Pooja and I were listening to another talk, which Priya had with Deepti and Anil Mehta, where they were talking about how after a while, when you kind of end up doing a lot of work, the technical aspects have become second nature, and you can really kind of create, you don't think so much about how to arrive at this kind of mood of lighting or what to do with the camera, etc. So, and then you kind of start to create. So even though it is an extremely technical medium and we love the technical aspects of it, we are kind of geeks in that way. If you're a DP, you have to be. But at the same time, there is a lot more stuff that you have to think on your feet. You have to be a people person, man. You have to really kind of be able to know how to communicate, how to make people feel that they are very much, your crew, or, there has to be a lot of love involved as well. Otherwise it's difficult to work personally for me. And I think I can say for Pooja this much, so I know her enough to say that it's difficult for us to do a job just for the money, like your own needs and your artistry comes out, and there's always that clash. So
yeah. No, I mean, till now, whatever I've worked has always been with the directors who I have sort of, gelled with, because it's very difficult to pull off 30 days, 35 days if you're not on the same wavelength. So if I just do something for money, I will make myself miserable. So for longer projects like a feature film, I really prefer having a good team and a good rapport. Because there's a lot of prep that goes in, when you're doing a feature, you are just not the shoot, but you're spending 3 months before with the director just to discuss a lot of things, and with the other team, with your own team. And ads are sort of different, because ads, they come with storyboard. You're just executing what's there in the storyboard. And as Shreya said, it's sort of also experimentation, but with a lot of budget, slightly opposite to short films. But I mean, you're still doing, I mean, if I want to try a new light that's come in the market, and I have the budget for it, for to order, for one day, and it's an ad, and the producer can afford it, why not? But for example, for a feature, I might not be able to hire a Arimax, 3 Arimax, which are very expensive lights for 10 days. But here on a one-day ad, I just want to try it out. What different things I can do. Like this new light, I'm very curious about. I don't know whether Shreya is going to use it or not. Orbiter. So we are sort of
your ad when you're shooting it. I'll come and see it.
So this whole I mean, all of us are geeks about new stuff that's coming out and want to try. But like, I was saying, for Wig, we ended up doing a lot of stuff very candidly. And this was one of the reasons was, the moment you sit down and try and chalk down everything on paper, you get very technical about it. Oh, okay, for this I need this sort of equipment. But for so, so basically, what I agree, and what Priya also said, that then the craft becomes more important. So for us, both of us, in me, what became important to us, to let the actors be, let them have their sort of flow, and I'm lit all over. I don't have to really light one zone and then go to the other zone, and uh, uh, just just let the camera move fluid, and um, just be more candid. I think that was the intention.
So there are two directions in which my mind went when both of you were speaking. One of them was to take that tech geek aspect of your work and lead into one of the questions that I have to ask you guys, since both of you are women in a very quite vividly male-dominated kind of field. I wondered whether the tech geek aspect of the work is one of the reasons why cinematography has tended to be so male-dominated. Do you think that that's part of it? That's one question. Maybe we can take that first.
I really don't know. I can't say that, but usually I've always said this, that anything to do with machine is thought of very male dominated thing, which is slightly more physical, but I think it's changing. It's changing for good.
There was definitely this thing where, I mean, when you look at, when I was studying in film school, they were like 35mm Russian cameras that were very heavy, and the grips were not easy. So we cannot take away from the fact that, yes, of course, the cameras have become lighter over time, and that just makes my life easier, definitely.
Yeah.
I've never thought about it. It's interesting what you're saying, Pooja, that when you think about machinery, it's always kind of maybe operated by men. But I never thought about it like that.
Because
there are a lot of reasons, and I don't really care why it was a one single dominating thing. It's about how do we. Sorry, I don't need to take away from your question, Trisha, but
no.
Just thinking about the question.
It's just a thought I had while thinking about tech geek as something that one ordinarily associates with men, right? So I just thought whether that's correlated. That was just the.
No, so I'll tell you where this thought originated. I was shooting something in Rajasthan, interiors of Rajasthan, and I was doing handheld. I was doing second unit for a French crew, and there was this Rajasthani woman who was actually carrying 2 big handas of water. She stopped by me and she said that I'm in all that her Rajasthani very strong accent, that I feel very proud of women like you who do things in different manners. And this must be so heavy, and I was like, not heavier than what you are carrying.
And that balance, dude, the way their neck is while they're carrying all that weight, we don't understand that kind of posture.
Exactly. So I kept thinking about it, and I realized that a lot of people have this thing that which is wherever there's machinery involved, like a big machinery involved, it's always thought that it's a man's job. For example, when it comes to edit, a lot of people end up saying, oh, it's a woman editor would do. I mean, I might sound slightly but I've heard these kind of things, but I have always believed, and for 10 years I've been working assisting for 2 to 3 years, and then 6-7 years of being independent. I've realized that not everybody thinks like that, and what you can do is look at the best part of it and build with the best with the people who want to work with you.
So
because I've had friends who have started with me. I was the only girl in my batch in my film school cinematography batch, and there are friends who started with me, and they have had similar struggles of getting independent work. I mean, the reasons were different of not getting the job or getting the job, but getting an independent project is difficult for everybody.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, the reasons could be different, but
A lot of
yeah,
this happens behind closed doors, you see. We don't
yeah,
know why
yeah,
we're not getting the jobs, There could
yeah,
be several different reasons. And I guess maybe it's good that we are not, if there is any ever maybe a question of gender, then I'm glad that they kind of are okay with it from the very beginning instead of us getting the job. But then I guess us going through different ways of dealing with it at different levels. So, and I
yeah,
think in some way when we kind of go into a meeting, the vibe, but then there's also a time where sometimes initially when I was also desperate and didn't have the luxury of choosing the kind of projects I want to do, you kind of take it as a challenge to prove them or the room wrong. It's really then you kind of think about not paying attention to all the other foofa around and like putting our head down and really focusing on work, and that's what they'll all react to you know
Right.
so
This is where I'm assuming we're talking here of the more mainstream kind of film projects.
it's not mainstream.
No, that's not what we're talking about.
Generally,
Generally, yeah, okay,
everywhere,
yeah.
it can be anything.
Hmm.
People can have doubt irrespective of gender. I mean, it's not necessarily easy to sometimes work with an all girls crew. It's great to have a balance with men and women, and so
Sure.
it's really kind of, it's that sometimes girls are not nice to girls. I came
Yeah,
from
of
a girls
course.
boarding school
yeah,
and
yeah,
had very mean girls in my boarding school, so you know so
Yeah, no, it
I
isn't.
think
Patriarchy doesn't map equally onto easily onto bodies, so it doesn't go
yeah.
like that. Yeah, no, that's true.
yeah,
But yeah, it's
yeah,
just. I mean, it is a question I had. So perhaps it
It's
doesn't.
definitely an ongoing question, Trisha. It's something
Yeah.
that we are tackling with. We're thinking about, we're finding our own relationship with these answers. Sometimes it comes
yeah,
out and burns you, and like it kind of ignites a fire within you, and then you don't know how to
yeah,
handle it. And you have to calm yourself down and focus on what's important.
Hmm.
And there's
yeah.
only that much you can
Like,
talk about it or feel about it. So
yeah,
So
yeah,
can maybe moving to the more because I can see that this is a we can aid with that conversation because it's an ongoing thing. We can have it forever, but we should move to the next thing that I wanted to ask you, which is, do you feel any sense that given that image making has been historically so dominated, certainly in cinema, by the male view or eye behind the camera, do you feel any sense that, oh, since I am a woman, is there something that I bring to this, or is that not a factor? It doesn't need to be, but is that ever something that struck you that this is how it would have been done traditionally, but I'm going to do it this way, and in some way beyond your particular personal preference? Does gender ever figure? Like, does it feel like framing or light or anything?
yeah, yeah,
So this really depends on artist to artist. It depends on who you are as a cinematographer, a visual person, what your aesthetics are, what you have, wanting to focus, or what you watch, what you read, how you live your life,
Absolutely.
etc., etc.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think that there is a lot that depends on that, and then sometimes that again becomes second nature. In ways that sometimes you do not want to focus on the chest, but you kind of, if you're panning from face, if you're tilting from face to foot, you kind of don't necessarily linger too much on the tits, but you kind of move around, or what becomes your need. The discussion with the director as to who walks in front and who walks at the back, or
I'm
that
thinking of Cat Sticks,
their mind,
which has many erotic scenes, for instance.
Sorry?
I was thinking of Cat Sticks, which has some erotic sort of scenes, for instance.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about, it,
definitely there is a lot of
it feels to
even
me
post Cat 6 releasing, Ronnie and I had a lot of time to kind of we had conversations, and I think maybe the only time it kind of moved into a heated argument about the female character represented in Cat Sticks and what my opinion was, and what etc etc. There was a lot of conversation, which was great conversation, which was important conversation. So there's definitely that. There's definitely a way of kind of how you photograph an intimate scene, or say having worked with Mira, who kind of is incredible with directing intimate scenes, and how they work as a director, how they kind of maneuver around the actors and what they're trying to show. So of course, I think it's our responsibility as women to be able to kind of bring that on the table, or at least, because in the end of the day, it is the director's medium in many ways. I mean, he is the boss, you know, or she is the boss. So there is that you have to kind of do. So this conversation is key. And I think that today, a lot of men or people are open to that, hopefully, you know, whether they are interested in the conversation or they're petrified of not listening to it, you know, but they have no choice but to. So I think that's really great that, you know, you can't avoid this conversation, especially if you hire a female DP. I think a lot of directors, let's give them that credit, they kind of want a woman on board, particularly for that reason, you know. So that's always great as well. So I think that it's only good.
Pooja, did you want to come in on this? And especially with the context of your film, which is in some ways deeply about the gaze. I mean, in some ways it is about, I mean, I don't want to give away the content of your films, you know, and I've actually, I think, consciously chosen not to speak of them in too much, because I feel like they're lovely and people should watch them and, you know, come to this conversation with that in mind. But yeah.
So I always believe that, you know, as Shreya said, you know, it's how, as a person, you've been brought up. Where have you lived? What have you seen? What have you got exposed to? What is your politics? What is your, you know, how do you perceive things? And it's, I have seen sometimes that, you know, a woman can have more erotic sense than a man can ever think of. So, for example, since Shreya has been speaking about Meera, I absolutely adore her work, and I've like watched her. You know, she's done a very sensitive film like Namesake, and then she's also done Kama Sutra, which was also very sensitively but in a very erotic way handled. So, you know, I feel that we do, as a visual person, we have to have both sides.
Yeah.
To, you know.
And Kama Sutra shot by a man, Declan Quinn.
Yeah.
You know? So
yeah.
To be able to give them that credit.
Yeah. So I'm saying that, you know, it all depends. Who are you as a person? Then, of course, what happens is, as a cinematographer, as I keep saying, that it's a team. It's not one person. I though I am behind the camera, I am doing the framing, but there's so many other things that, you know, come into the frame, and at the end, it's the director who wants to tell the story. So you don't know how you've shot it and how it's put on the edit.
Yeah.
So, you know, so for example, I shot Brig, but then I've also shot Brijmohan Amar Rahe, which was highly an action film, and there was a lot of action in it, and 80% of the film is handheld, and it was a classic black comedy. So, I mean, no, if somebody sees the film, nobody can say it's shot by a woman. So I'm saying it depends from director to director, from and how you change with every director, and you, as a person also, you grow, you evolve, and, you know, with every project you do different things. So for me, I feel the gaze and the perception keep changing with every project.
Yeah, so true.
I'm wondering whether for both of you, these two shots that are showing at DIFF right now, are they you know, things that you've been, because they happen to be with directors that you are close to, and there's a particular kind of close relationship that you've had with those people as creators. So is that something that feels like it makes those projects special in some way? I mean, is that something that you know, is a that's just me, like I'm imagining that?
Yeah, so if I may, Shreya, I'll start with me and Atanu. We discuss a lot of ideas, and we discuss there are a lot of live experiences that, you know, you experience, and I mean, with Gatekeeper, we've done a short film called Gatekeeper, and Atanu belongs to, his father used to work in railways, and he was always curious about these isolated railway crossings. and we were traveling together to a hill station, and we sort of encountered one of these railway crossings, and you sort of discuss, and it's right from the seed of conception of that idea to finally seeing it as a film. There's so much involvement that they end up becoming special, all the projects that I've worked with him. But then that sort of a relationship I also have with Sange. So it is I think how what is your relationship with your director?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
and
yeah, and especially Vig was something that was also very personal to. I mean, since you don't want to reveal, I'm not going to say, but
maybe you should, because maybe you find a way to talk about it without giving it away, because I don't want to give it away on your behalf.
Okay. So me and Asanu were walking down to a mall, grocery mall, Hypercity, which is very close to our house, and it's like a 500-meter walk. So we both walked. We were walking, and then just in front of the mall, there are these transgender sex workers who usually stand. And the moment the point came, I was like, Atanu, I think we should cross the road. And he was like, why? Why do you want to cross the road? I said, I feel slightly awkward to just be around. And he said, why? But, I mean, what is wrong? I said, it's not about them. It's also about who surrounds them. This got him thinking. And of course, then there was a friend who was not getting a house to stay. A single woman is also very difficult to have in a city like Mumbai. I mean, I was also talking to somebody that I have not changed my name. I've not changed my name to Mukherjee. I've kept it Gupte, my maiden surname, and also or whatever reason. I find it silly to change the name. So a lot of times when we shift to new apartments, rented apartments in Bombay especially, they ask for a marriage certificate, which is a sort of, why do you need it? Two people can and could want to stay together. But these are the norms of society, and it's like you have to be in the system to be a part of it. And then you end up doing the things that you don't really want to do, but they just become sort of a rule, you just
I mean, you need to conform to certain things in order to get certain things, like something as simple as renting a house. So and the film brings that out quite beautifully when because it starts with an Aadhaar card, and then it goes from there really. And yet it's very brief, that aspect. So see, again, if I start talking about it, I'll give it away, which is why I don't. I feel like it should be. But Shreya, did you want to come in on that? Just
definitely a very special film. It's my first film that I've shot with my sister, and I hope I shoot a lot more of her great work. I think she's an incredible writer director. And this is a really special film too, because Rani, the lead, she's absolutely incredible, and she's just the reason why this film is what it is, as you know, because you must have seen it.
This is the girl who plays Bittu.
Bittu, yeah. I mean, there are times, so I mean, of course, because of her and the relationship we made with Chand and with both the characters, both the protagonists, is really special too. So. And
do they know each other? Oh, this is my curiosity outside of this, right?
Yeah, they're like they were a group of migrant workers, who kind of came to the foothills of the Himalayas there, and they kind of made a little basti around this. So they kind of the families know one another,
right? Yeah.
But it's really special, and there's a lot of us in the film and within the characters, because we both went to the same boarding school, and we kind of have had a little bit of problem with authorities. So there's a lot of us and our arguments between these two sisters, and I mean, two friends who are like, so it was really great to work with that rhythm. I remember on the 6th day of shoot, we were having so much fun, of course, because a lot of it was done. But there were times that we were behind the camera and the actors were performing. only Karishma and I were constantly laughing at jokes, you know. So there was always this history of these jokes, but only the both of us were finding with the most random things. So I guess it's definitely, I think, easier to work with a sibling than with a lover. So Pooja, I really kind of envy you. That's really great. I want to arrive at that someday, you know, definitely. So
Yeah.
yeah, it helps because it's not a very easy industry, and it's great to have people on our side of the fence, you know. And
Yes.
then you kind of you feel more like not so lonely, and it's
Yeah.
great to have each other's opinion and bounce off. I mean, you know, whether it's my partner or my sister, it's great to have that kind of crew with you for multiple projects now.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So
so I've also, sorry, I'm just going to add on to this. I have also realized, you know, that's why when I said that, you know, for feature films, I make sure that I'm working with people who I think you know, basically are good people, and I can sort of collaborate, because only then you can make the film special. And if it's not that, then I just become too technical and I end up becoming a nerd who just is shooting something which is there on the paper. And not so yeah, and in
Not
fact
bringing as much of yourself into
yeah.
it, maybe.
Yeah,
What,
in fact,
yeah.
for Big, we actually casted transgenders for the role, and of course I had to go with them, get that you know, haircut done and all. And the moment I started conversing with them, it changed my perspective towards them, you know. I mean, you think in your own ways, you're a liberal person, but we still have a sort of a boundary to that liberal thought process. And we don't know how unknowingly we are doing things which are not right towards some minority or some sort of um, you know, unique
outcast. It's not fair.
yeah,
It's not good.
situation. Yeah.
I'm dying to watch
So
the film, Pooja.
yeah,
So
yeah, I'll share the link.
since we are coming to the end of our time, I have a question which is about the fact of, the fact that this is going to be where your films get screened online. And I wondered whether, as cinematographers with so much investment in the image, and, you know, traditionally having thought of your films as being screened on large screens in cinema halls, watched by, you know, people together. How do you feel about the fact that
मेरी तो
things are
कभी
being
film screening बड़े theater में, so I don't know about that, Pooja. You may have had the luxury of that.
Yeah, I mean, I've had two big releases.
Oh, lucky girl.
But I mean, not as big as people would think. But yeah, it's exciting, you know. I mean, to see people react. And when I go to theater and my film is playing, I'm actually never watching the screen. I'm looking how people are reacting, and are they laughing at the right time, or are they crying at the right time, or are they, you know, did that emotion come through, and did they notice that thing that I was trying to do through the camera? And you know,
But does the language of cinematography, do you think it's going to be affected by the fact that we're going to see so much more is being consumed on a mobile phone, or at least on a much smaller screen?
So I came when I started film school. There was only film that we worked on, and then the digital started kicking in from 2008-9 extensively. There was digital that was happening for TV, but not so much for films. Films were still shot on an analog film way. But I've always evolved. So for me, I absolutely sometimes have no problem watching people watching things on mobile, because I mean, see, entertainment in whichever form, somebody who is a serious film lover will never do it. Will probably will probably make sure that, you know, it's watched on a projector, or you know, at least on a bigger TV or a bigger screen. But somebody who does a job and has no space and time, and just traveling in local, and it's the only time you can watch a series in half an hour. That's travel time. Why not? Yeah. Why take away that half an hour from them? So I feel that as a cinematographer, you have to keep in mind that your film will be watched. So that's also another thing, that when you're collaborating with your director and you have a producer on board, you have to know what is your final destination in a way. And these days, all the producers have become very educated about how they want to go about selling their films. It's not just कि film खत्म होने के बाद देखते हैं. They're very sure.
So much with color, the way when we spend about 10-15 days in grading a film and adding the color in the film, and then before OTT, it was an issue of how every film would look different on every. I mean, your film would look different on every screen. Everyone has different kinds of laptops, and that is something which I can't which is very difficult for me to kind of swallow. Because you spend so much time in grading in a monitor which is color calibrated, and then people are watching it. It looks different on different kinds of IMAX. But actually, the best color is on your iPhone compared to your MacBook Pro, say, for example, and then that's the closest to the calibrated monitor. So that is a very difficult thing that we are going to struggle with it before OTTs came around too. That's something that I wish, I could kind of control the color temperature on every person's screen before they watch the film.
I was going to say,
Shreya, Brook released, though it was a digital projection, so was Crossing Bridges.
Yeah.
But even in film, films, you never knew that, what kind of projection is going to be. Was the screen properly maintained, or was the bulb changed or not, and what was the throw of the projector and all that. So this, as a cinematographer, this jitter we will always have, who is watching, where he is watching, and how it's going to look finally. What we can hope is a lot of people have good iPhones or good phones these days. So
that's so sad. They might as well shoot the film with the phone,
Yeah.
But there is now they're kind of thinking about In Orbit next to you, Pooja, has a cinema. I think it's one of the big chains, but they have these screens, the cinema theaters, which are LED lit, first they're kind of backlit, and that, you can grade in HDR, and then eventually it's possible to kind of control the color much better, because there isn't these issues that Pooja was talking about. Right. So I think in that way, there will be something that, maybe a step up in being able to control and make it simpler for us to control the output of the film, in cinema.
Yeah, but I still feel it's slightly impossible in India, because the kind of theaters we have, ranging from different single screens to multiplexes to. So I have actually gathered my head around that people are going to watch on different platforms, and it is their choice. You have to respect it. You can't take away their freedom of how and when they want to watch it.
But a lot of my friends who sound design, they have a very difficult time, because in Bombay there are only a few theaters which the sound is really incredible.
Good.
A lot of them, it's quite awful, and the speakers are off and it's cracked, and you can still watch a film with really bad, gritty, handheld imagery, but you cannot watch it if it's not on sync and it's really bad sound. So that is something also I wish our country would think about. And
I guess what we're really saying is we want many more tech geeks, like the democratization of tech geekery. That is the only answer to your cinematography worries. But right now, I guess, we should just be grateful that we have as much as we have. We have some scope for watching the films that you guys have put out this year. And on that note, I am actually going to close this conversation. Thank you so much for talking to me, and especially to Pooja, because she is doing this in a in an exceptionally special time and a busy time. And thank you to Tanuj for being with us quietly for the
Yeah.
last hour.
I know.
So-
So
Yeah, he's sleeping again.
Thank you
Yeah,
and
thank you
bye
so much.
bye.
thank you.
Bye bye.